The handcuffs bit into my wrists as I knelt on my own front lawn at midnight, surrounded by flashing red and blue lights. My wife Nora stood on our porch in her silk robe, phone pressed to her ear, giggling like a teenager. "You should see his face right now," she whispered into the phone, loud enough for me to hear. "Graham looks like a deer caught in headlights. This is better than I imagined." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My name is Graham O'Neill, and I'm 43 years old. I coordinate supply chains for a mid-sized logistics company in this faded industrial town where everyone knows everyone's business. I'd just finished a brutal 16-hour shift fixing a warehouse crisis, then spent 2 hours under the hood of my busted pickup truck in our driveway. All I wanted was a beer and my bed. Instead, I got this. "Sir, we're going to need you to stay calm," Officer Martinez said, adjusting his grip on my shoulder. "Your wife called 911 reporting an intruder in your yard. She said she didn't recognize you." I stared at Nora, who was now holding her phone out toward me, clearly on a video call. Through the screen, I could see Lance Pritchard's smug face grinning back at me. Lance worked with Nora at the beauty salon downtown, a 38-year-old man-child who thought he was God's gift to womankind. "Babe, this is incredible," Lance's voice carried across the night air. "You're absolutely wild. I wish I could be there to see this in person." That's when it hit me. This wasn't a mistake. This was a prank. My wife had called the police on me as entertainment for her boyfriend. "Officers," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the rage building in my chest. "I live here. This is my house. My name is on the mortgage, the utilities, everything. Check my wallet. It's in my back pocket." Officer Martinez exchanged a glance with his partner, Officer Chen. They'd responded to domestic calls before, but this was different. There was no violence, no shouting match, no signs of struggle. Just a woman who claimed not to recognize her own husband. "Ma'am," Officer Chen called to Nora. "Can you come down here, please? We need to sort this out." Nora sauntered down the porch steps, still clutching her phone. "I'm sorry, officers. It's just that Graham's been working so much lately, and when I saw this figure in the driveway, I panicked. Better safe than sorry, right?" Her explanation might have been believable if not for the barely contained laughter in her voice and the fact that Lance was still visible on her phone screen, recording everything. "This is harassment," I said quietly. "She knows exactly who I am. We've been married for 18 years. Our daughter Sophie is upstairs sleeping." Officer Martinez pulled out his flashlight and examined my driver's license. The address matched. My pickup truck was registered to this address. Everything checked out. "Ma'am, this is your husband," Officer Martinez said to Nora. "You called 911 on your own husband." "Oh my goodness," Nora said, pressing her hand to her chest in mock surprise. "I'm so sorry, Graham. The lighting out here is terrible, and you looked so different covered in grease. I honestly didn't recognize you." But I could see Lance on her phone screen, making exaggerated, shocked faces and silently clapping his hands. This was performance art for them. The officers uncuffed me, but the damage was done. Mrs. Biggs from next door had come out to watch the show. The Hendersons across the street were peeking through their curtains. By morning, the whole neighborhood would know that Graham O'Neill got arrested in his own driveway. "Next time, maybe turn on the porch light before calling 911. Officer Chen suggested to Nora with barely concealed irritation. "False reports waste police resources." After the patrol cars left, I stood in my driveway staring at my wife. She'd finally hung up with Lance and was scrolling through her phone, probably texting him about how hilarious the whole thing had been. "That was really something, Nora," I said. She looked up at me with those green eyes that used to make my heart skip. Now, they just looked cold. "Come on, Graham. Don't be such a baby about it. It was just a little mix-up." A mix-up that involved lying to police officers and having me handcuffed on our front lawn. She shrugged. Maybe if you came home at normal hours like other husbands, I'd recognize you in the dark. I walked past her into our house, tracking grease on the hardwood floors she was always nagging me to keep clean. In the kitchen, I grabbed a beer from the refrigerator and sat at our small dining table thinking, 18 years of marriage. 18 years of working my ass off to provide for this family, while Nora managed the front desk at Sal's beauty salon and complained about everything I did wrong. When had she become someone who would humiliate me for entertainment? The answer came to me as I heard her upstairs, talking on the phone again, probably with Lance, rehashing every detail of their successful prank. I pulled out my phone and did something I'd never done before in our marriage. I Googled body camera footage police reports and found that our city's police department posted all body cam footage online within 24 hours for transparency purposes. By tomorrow afternoon, I'd have video evidence of exactly what happened tonight. Video evidence of Nora laughing with Lance while I was handcuffed. Video evidence of her lies to the police officers. I finished my beer and went upstairs. Nora was in our bathroom, going through her elaborate nighttime skincare routine, still giggling about something on her phone. "Good night, Nora," I said. "Night," she replied without looking up. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to her whisper into her phone in the bathroom. For the first time in our marriage, I was planning something that had nothing to do with making her happy. The next morning, I woke up to find Nora already gone. She'd left early for work without making coffee or saying goodbye. Nothing unusual there. What was unusual was the notification on my phone from the police department's transparency portal. The body cam footage from last night's incident was already online. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, drinking instant coffee and watching my own humiliation in high definition. The footage was even worse than I remembered. You could clearly hear Nora's conversation with Lance, see her pointing the phone camera at me in handcuffs, hear her barely suppressed laughter as she lied to the officers. But there was something else in the footage that I'd missed in the chaos of the moment. When Officer Martinez was checking my identification, his body camera caught a clear view of Nora's phone screen. Lance wasn't just watching, he was recording, and in the background of his video call, I could see he wasn't at his apartment. He was in what looked like a hotel room. I screenshot that frame and enhanced it on my computer. The hotel logo was clearly visible on a notepad on the nightstand behind Lance. The Riverside Inn, about 20 minutes outside town. The same hotel where Nora claimed she'd been going for her monthly girls' spa weekends with her sister Carol. I called Carol. "Hey, Graham," she answered cheerfully. "What's up?" "Just wondering how Nora enjoyed your spa weekend last month at the Riverside Inn." There was a long pause. "Graham, I haven't been to a spa with Nora in over a year. We had a fight about money and haven't really talked since. Why?" My stomach dropped, but I kept my voice casual. "Oh, she must have gone with someone else then. No big deal." After hanging up, I sat back in my chair and processed what I'd learned. My wife wasn't just pulling pranks with Lance, she was having an affair with him. The hotel room in the background of his video call proved it. I spent the next hour going through our joint cell phone account online. The call logs were eye-opening. Nora and Lance had been talking for hours every day for the past 4 months. Late-night calls, early morning calls, calls during my work hours when she knew I wouldn't be home. Then I checked our joint credit card statements. Sure enough, there were charges at the Riverside Inn going back months, always on weekends when I was working overtime or when she claimed to be visiting family. My wife of 18 years was cheating on me, and she thought it was funny to humiliate me in front of the whole neighborhood. I made a decision that would change everything. First, I called my bank and froze our joint checking account, citing suspicious activity. As the primary account holder and sole income earner, I had every right to do this. Second, I called my buddy Marty, who owned the boxing gym where I worked out 3 times a week. Marty was a former Marine who'd seen every kind of betrayal imaginable. I need a place to stay for a few days, I told him. What happened? I gave him the short version. When I finished, there was silence on the other end. You got the footage? He asked. Crystal clear. Good. Don't do anything stupid, but don't be a doormat either. Come by the gym after work. We'll figure this out. Third, I did something that felt both terrifying and liberating. I called a divorce attorney. Jennifer Walsh had handled my coworker's divorce 2 years ago. She was known for being thorough, aggressive, and expensive, but she got results. Mr. O'Neill, she said when I called, what can I do for you? My wife had me arrested last night as a prank for her boyfriend. I have it all on video. I want to know my options. Can you be in my office at 3 o'clock today? Yes. Bring the video, your financial records, and any evidence of the affair. We'll talk. I spent the rest of the day at work in a strange, focused calm. My coworkers noticed something different about me, but I deflected their questions. I had bigger things to worry about than small talk. At lunch, I got a text from Nora. Why is our checking account frozen? I replied. Bank said there was suspicious activity. Should be resolved soon. She didn't respond. At 3 o'clock sharp, I was sitting in Jennifer Walsh's office, a sleek space downtown with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river. Jennifer was a sharp-faced woman in her 50s who looked like she could dissect you with her stare. Show me the video, she said. I played the body cam footage on my phone. Jennifer watched without expression, taking notes. This is good, she said when it finished. Your wife filed a false police report, which is a misdemeanor. She also publicly humiliated you, which could factor into a divorce settlement. Tell me about the affair. I showed her the phone records, credit card statements, and the screenshot of Lance in the hotel room. Even better, she said. In this state, adultery affects alimony calculations. With this evidence, she won't get a penny from you, and you'll likely get the house. What about my daughter? Sophie's 16, right? Old enough to choose which parent she wants to live with. If your wife is having affairs and pulling stunts like this, most judges would favor you for primary custody. For the first time in 24 hours, I smiled. What's your timeline? Jennifer asked. I want to move fast, strike while she's still thinking this is all a joke. I can have divorce papers ready by tomorrow afternoon. We'll serve her at work, make it public just like she made your arrest public. Do it. I left Jennifer's office feeling like a different person. For 18 years, I'd been the steady, reliable husband who absorbed Nora's moods and complaints without fighting back. I'd worked overtime to pay for her salon treatments and shopping trips while she texted other men and plotted ways to embarrass me. That version of Graham was gone. I drove to Marty's gym, a converted warehouse that smelled like sweat and determination. Marty was in his office, a cramped space overlooking the main floor where a dozen guys were pounding heavy bags and sparring. You look different, he said when I walked in. I feel different. Good. What's the plan? I told him about the lawyer, the divorce papers, the evidence I'd gathered. Smart, he said. But what about the boyfriend? You can't let that slide. I'm not going to do anything illegal. Who said anything about illegal? Marty grinned. Sometimes the best revenge is just letting people see who someone really is. He was right. I'd spent years protecting Nora's reputation, covering for her mistakes, making excuses for her behavior. What if I just stopped doing that? What if I let the whole town see exactly who my wife really was? The next morning, I woke up on Marty's couch feeling more rested than I had in months. My phone showed 17 missed calls and 43 text messages from Nora, starting around midnight when she realized I hadn't come home. The messages started worried. Where are you? Are you okay? Then angry. This is ridiculous. Come home right now. Then desperate. Graham, please, we need to talk about this. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I showered at the gym and drove to work like it was any other day. I had a job to do, and I wasn't going to let Nora's drama interfere with my responsibilities. At noon, Jennifer Walsh called. "Papers are ready," she said. "My process server will be at the salon at 2 o'clock. Are you sure you want to do this publicly?" "Absolutely. She made my arrest a public spectacle. Turnabout is fair play." "I like your style, Mr. O'Neill." At 2:15, my phone rang. It was Sal Benedetto, the owner of the salon where Nora worked. "Graham, what the hell is going on? Some guy just served Nora with divorce papers in front of my entire staff and half my customers. She's having a complete meltdown." "Sorry about the disruption, Sal. I didn't want it to affect your business, but she forced my hand." "What do you mean she forced your hand?" I'd known Sal for years. He was a straight shooter who'd built his business on reputation and trust. He deserved to know the truth. "Did Nora tell you about her prank the other night? The one where she called the police on me?" "She mentioned some kind of misunderstanding." "It wasn't a misunderstanding, Sal. She had me arrested in my own driveway as entertainment for her boyfriend. I have the police body cam footage if you want to see it." There was a long pause. "Send it to me." I forwarded the video file to Sal's email address. "The boyfriend is Lance Pritchard. They've been having an affair for months. I have phone records and credit card statements proving it." "Jesus Christ, Graham, I'm sorry." "Not your fault, Sal. But you should know that your employee has been using your business as a cover for her affair. Those late nights she claimed she was helping you with inventory? She was at hotels with Lance." Another pause. "I'll handle this." "Thanks, Sal. And again, I'm sorry it had to happen at your place." 20 minutes later, Nora called me, sobbing hysterically. "Graham, please, you have to fix this. Sal fired me. He fired me in front of everyone. He said I was using the salon to cover up an affair and that I was damaging his reputation." Sounds like Sal values honesty in his employees. "This is insane. You can't just destroy my life because of one stupid prank." "One stupid prank? Nora, you've been cheating on me for months. You've been lying about where you go and who you're with. You had me arrested and humiliated me in front of our neighbors for your boyfriend's entertainment. This isn't about one prank. This is about who you've become. Lance and I are just friends." "I have hotel receipts, Nora. I have phone records showing you talk to him for hours every day. I have video of him in a hotel room during your supposed spa weekend with Carol, who, by the way, told me you haven't spoken in over a year." The line went quiet, except for her crying. "Where are you staying?" she finally asked. "That's not your concern anymore." "What about Sophie? She's asking where you are." "I'll pick Sophie up from school and take her to dinner. We need to talk about what's happening." "You can't turn my daughter against me." "Our daughter. And I'm not turning her against anyone. I'm going to tell her the truth, which is something you should try sometime." I hung up and immediately called Sophie's school to let them know I'd be picking her up instead of her taking the bus home. Sophie was 16, smart, and unfortunately had inherited her mother's ability to read people. When she got in my truck, she took one look at my face and said, "Mom's affair finally came out, didn't it?" I nearly drove off the road. "What?" "Dad, I'm not stupid. Mom's been acting weird for months, always on her phone, always going out, always lying about where she's been. Plus, Lance has been calling the house looking for her when she's supposedly at work." I pulled into a parking lot and turned to face my daughter. "How long have you known?" "I suspected for a while, but I knew for sure last month when I saw them together at the Riverside Inn. I was there with my friend Jessica for her birthday party, and I saw Mom and Lance in the lobby together. They were holding hands." My heart broke for her. "Why didn't you tell me?" Sophie shrugged, suddenly looking much older than 16. "What was I supposed to say?" "Hey, Dad, Mom's cheating on you?" I kept hoping she'd come to her senses and stop. "I'm sorry you had to deal with that alone." "Are you getting divorced?" "Yes. I served her with papers today." Sophie nodded. "Good. You deserve better than someone who lies to you and makes fun of you with her boyfriend." "You know about the prank too?" "The whole school knows, Dad. Mrs. Henderson's daughter posted about it on social media. Everyone's talking about how Mom had you arrested as a joke. The humiliation was even worse than I'd thought. Not only had Nora embarrassed me in front of our neighbors, but the story had spread to our daughter's school. "I want to live with you," Sophie said quietly. "Are you sure? This is going to get messy." "I'm sure. Mom made her choice when she decided Lance was more important than our family." We went to dinner at Sophie's favorite restaurant, and I explained what would happen next. The divorce process, the custody arrangements, the fact that we'd probably have to sell the house. "Can I ask you something, Dad?" "Anything. Are you going to try to get back at Mom?" I thought about that question carefully. "I'm going to make sure the truth comes out. I'm going to protect myself and you in the divorce, but I'm not going to do anything illegal or dangerous." "What about Lance? What about him? Are you going to let him get away with breaking up our family?" I looked at my daughter, my smart, perceptive daughter who'd been carrying this burden alone for months, and made a decision. "No," I said. "I'm not." That evening, I dropped Sophie off at home to get her things. She was going to stay with me at Marty's until we figured out a more permanent arrangement. While Sophie packed, I sat in my truck and did some research on my phone. Lance Pritchard lived in a converted warehouse apartment downtown. He drove a restored 1970 Chevelle that he was obsessively proud of. I'd heard him bragging about it at neighborhood barbecues. He worked part-time at the salon doing bookkeeping and part-time as a personal trainer at a fancy gym across town. Most importantly, he was married. I'd completely forgotten about Lance's wife, Sarah, because she kept such a low profile. But according to social media, Sarah Pritchard was a nurse at the regional medical center. She worked long shifts, which explained why Lance had so much free time for affairs. Sarah deserved to know what her husband was doing. I found her Facebook profile and sent her a private message. "Hi, Sarah. This is Graham O'Neill, Nora's husband. I think we need to talk about our spouses. I have some information I think you'd want to see." She responded within 10 minutes. "I've been waiting for this conversation. Can you meet me tomorrow after my shift ends at 7 p.m.? There's a coffee shop on 5th Street called Grounded." "I'll be there." Sophie came out with 2 suitcases and her backpack. As we drove away from the house I'd called home for 15 years, she looked back once and then turned to face forward. "I'm proud of you, Dad," she said. "For what?" "For finally standing up for yourself." Sarah Pritchard was not what I'd expected. She was tall, athletic, with short auburn hair and the kind of direct gaze that came from years of dealing with dangerous situations in a hospital. When I walked into Grounded Coffee at 7 o'clock the next evening, she was already there, sitting at a corner table with a folder in front of her. "Graham?" she asked as I approached. "That's me. Thanks for meeting with me." "Thank you for reaching out. Please, sit down." I ordered a coffee and joined her at the table. Up close, I could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the same exhaustion I'd been carrying for months. "How long have you known?" I asked. "About Lance and your wife? I suspected something was going on about 3 months ago. He started working late more often, taking mysterious phone calls, being secretive about his schedule." She opened the folder. So I started keeping track. The folder contained printed emails, screenshots of text messages, credit card statements, and photographs. Sarah had been conducting her own investigation. "I hired a private investigator last month," she continued. "These are photos of Lance and Nora at various hotels and restaurants around town." The photos were damning. Lance and Nora holding hands, kissing, entering hotel rooms together. There was even a photo of them laughing together while looking at something on Nora's phone, probably the video of me getting arrested. "I'm sorry," I said. "This must be devastating for you." Sarah's laugh was bitter. "You know what's devastating? Wasting 8 years of marriage on someone who thinks you're too stupid to notice when they're cheating. What's devastating is working 12-hour shifts to support a household while your husband is playing house with someone else." I understood that anger. "What are you going to do?" I already filed for divorce yesterday. My lawyer said with this evidence, Lance won't get anything in the settlement. She closed the folder. What about you? I told her about the body cam footage, the divorce papers, Nora getting fired from the salon. Sarah listened with the focused attention of someone accustomed to processing critical information quickly. So they thought it was funny to humiliate you, she said when I finished. Apparently. And now they're both unemployed and facing divorce proceedings. Looks that way. Sarah smiled for the first time since I'd arrived. Good, but I don't think that's enough, do you? What do you mean? I mean, they destroyed our marriages for their entertainment. They made us look like fools while they laughed behind our backs. Don't you think they should experience some consequences beyond just losing their jobs? I studied her face. Sarah wasn't talking about anything illegal, but she was definitely talking about revenge. What did you have in mind? Lance is obsessed with his reputation. He thinks he's this charming, irresistible guy that everyone loves. What if people knew what he really was? How? Sarah pulled out her phone. Lance doesn't know I know about the affair yet. He still thinks he's being clever, so he's been posting on social media about his amazing new relationship, without mentioning that he's still married and that his amazing new relationship is with another married woman. She showed me Lance's Instagram account. Sure enough, there were recent posts featuring expensive dinners, hotel room views, and cryptic captions like, "Life is too short not to follow your heart," and "Some people are worth any risk." I have an idea, Sarah continued, but I'll need your help. I'm listening. The Founders Day Festival is this weekend. It's the biggest social event of the year in this town. Everyone goes. Families, couples, local business owners, everyone. What if Lance and Nora's affair became very, very public at the festival? I thought about it. The Founders Day Festival was indeed a big deal. Local businesses sponsored booths, there were live bands, food vendors, and a beer garden. It was the kind of event where reputations were made and destroyed. What exactly are you proposing? Sarah grinned, and for the first time, I saw why Lance might have been attracted to her before he decided to throw away their marriage. Leave that to me. I just need you to make sure they both show up to the festival on Saturday. How am I supposed to do that? Nora's barely speaking to me, and I have no reason to talk to Lance. You don't have to talk to them. Just make sure the information gets to them that you'll be at the festival with Sophie, looking sad and defeated. Nora won't be able to resist the chance to show up with Lance and parade their relationship in front of everyone, especially if she thinks it'll hurt you. It was a good plan. Nora had always been competitive and vindictive. If she thought she could publicly humiliate me again, she'd jump at the chance. What about Lance? Lance will go wherever Nora wants to go. He's following her lead in this relationship. We shook hands in the parking lot outside the coffee shop. As I drove back to Marty's gym, I reflected on how much my life had changed in just a few days. A week ago, I was a faithful husband trying to keep my marriage together. Now I was plotting public revenge against my cheating wife and her boyfriend. The strangest part was how good it felt. When I got back to the gym, Sophie was doing homework at Marty's desk while he worked on the books. "How did it go with Lance's wife?" she asked without looking up from her algebra. "Her name is Sarah, and it went well. We're going to work together on something." "Good. They deserve whatever they get." Marty looked up from his paperwork. "You be careful, Graham. Revenge is a dish best served cold, but it can also burn the cook if you're not smart about it. We're not doing anything illegal. I'm not worried about illegal. I'm worried about you becoming someone you don't want to be." It was good advice, but I was past the point of turning the other cheek. Nora and Lance had made their choices. Now they'd have to live with the consequences. The next morning, I put Sarah's plan into motion. I called my neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, the biggest gossip in our neighborhood, and mentioned that I was planning to take Sophie to the Founders Day Festival on Saturday. "It'll be hard," I told her, with just the right amount of sadness in my voice. Being there without Nora, seeing all the happy couples. But Sophie really wants to go, and I don't want her to miss out because of our problems. Mrs. Henderson made all the appropriate sympathetic noises and promised to keep me in her prayers. I knew that by the end of the day, half the neighborhood would know that poor, heartbroken Graham O'Neill would be at the festival, probably looking pathetic and alone. It was exactly the kind of information that would make its way back to Nora. Sure enough, by Friday evening, Sophie reported that her mother had called to ask what our plans were for the weekend. I told her we were going to the festival, Sophie said. She got really quiet, then asked what time we'd be there and where we planned to meet up with friends. What did you tell her? That we'd probably get there around noon and spend most of our time near the main stage area. Perfect. Sarah and I had agreed that the main stage area would be the ideal location for maximum visibility and impact. Saturday morning, I woke up with the kind of nervous energy I hadn't felt since high school football games. Sophie and I had breakfast at a diner downtown, then walked around the festival setup, getting familiar with the layout. "Dad," Sophie said as we watched volunteers setting up the beer garden, "are you sure about this? Whatever you and Sarah have planned? Are you having second thoughts? Not about Mom and Lance getting what they deserve. I just don't want you to do something you'll regret later." I put my arm around my daughter's shoulders. "Sophie, for 18 years I've been the nice guy. I've been understanding and forgiving and patient. And where did it get me? Your mother had me arrested as a joke for her boyfriend's entertainment. She's been lying to both of us for months. She destroyed our family for a cheap thrill. I know. Sometimes being the nice guy just means being the sucker. I'm done being the sucker." Sophie nodded. "Then let's do this." At 11:30, Sarah texted me. "They just arrived. Nora's wearing a red dress, Lance has on a blue polo shirt. They're heading toward the beer garden." I looked at Sophie. "You ready? Let's go show Mom what consequences look like." The Founders' Day festival was in full swing by noon. The main street was closed to traffic and lined with vendor booths, selling everything from handmade jewelry to kettle corn. A bluegrass band played on the main stage while families spread blankets on the grass and couples wandered hand in hand between the booths. It was exactly the kind of wholesome community event that Nora had always loved, mainly because it gave her a chance to see and be seen by everyone in town. Sophie and I positioned ourselves near the main stage, just as planned. I spotted Nora and Lance almost immediately. She was indeed wearing a bright red dress that made her impossible to miss, and Lance was strutting beside her in his blue polo shirt like he owned the place. They were putting on quite a show, laughing loudly at each other's jokes, Lance's hand possessively on Nora's lower back, both of them making sure everyone could see how happy and in love they were. "There they are," Sophie said quietly. "Mom's really laying it on thick, isn't she? That's the point. She wants everyone to see how much better her life is without me. Where's Sarah?" I scanned the crowd and spotted her near the beer garden, talking to a man I didn't recognize. She was wearing jeans and a simple white t-shirt, looking relaxed and casual, the opposite of Nora's attention-grabbing outfit. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Give me 5 minutes, then start walking toward the beer garden." I watched as Sarah approached the sound technician near the main stage. They had a brief conversation. Sarah handed him something, and he nodded. Then Sarah walked back toward the beer garden, pulling out her phone. "What's happening?" Sophie asked. "I think we're about to find out." The bluegrass band finished their set, and the lead singer approached the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short break, but first, we have a special presentation courtesy of one of our community members." The large screens on either side of the stage, which had been displaying the festival sponsors' logos, suddenly switched to a different image. It was a photo of Lance and Nora kissing outside the Riverside Inn. A murmur went through the crowd as people tried to figure out what they were looking at. Then the photo changed to another one, Lance and Nora holding hands at an expensive restaurant downtown. Then, another photo, and another. Sarah had turned the main stage screens into a slideshow of Lance and Nora's affair. But the photos were just the beginning. The screens switched to a video, security footage from the hotel showing Lance and Nora entering a room together. Then another video of them leaving the next morning. The crowd was no longer murmuring. People were pointing, whispering, pulling out their phones to take pictures of the screens. Then came the audio. It was a recording of a phone conversation between Lance and Nora, clearly captured by Sarah's private investigator. Lance's voice boomed through the festival speakers. "I can't believe you actually had him arrested. That's the funniest thing I've ever seen." Nora's laughter followed. "You should have seen his face when he realized what was happening. I wish we could do it again. Maybe next time we can get him arrested for real. Make up some domestic violence story or something." "Oh my God, Lance, you're terrible, but that would be hilarious." The crowd had gone completely silent now. Everyone was staring at the screens, then looking around to see if they could spot the people in the photos. It didn't take long for someone to point at Nora and Lance. I watched as the realization hit them. Nora went pale, her hand flying to her mouth. Lance looked around frantically, as if searching for an escape route. But Sarah wasn't finished. The final image that appeared on the screens was the body cam footage of my arrest. The crowd watched as Nora lied to the police officers while laughing with Lance on her phone. They heard Lance's voice suggesting they should get him arrested for real next time. The festival had gone from a cheerful community gathering to a public shaming in the span of 5 minutes. People were openly staring at Nora and Lance now. I heard fragments of conversations. "That's disgusting." "Poor Graham. How could she do that to her own husband?" "And he's married too." Nora tried to grab Lance's arm and pull him toward the parking area, but Lance was frozen in place, staring at the screens in horror. That's when Sarah made her move. She walked up to Lance and Nora, and in a voice loud enough for everyone around them to hear, said, "Hello, honey. Enjoying the festival?" Lance spun around to face his wife. "Sarah, I can explain." "Explain what? How you've been using our joint credit card to pay for hotel rooms with your married girlfriend? How you've been lying to me for months? How you think it's funny to have innocent people arrested?" By now, a crowd had gathered around them. Sarah had timed it perfectly. The audio from the screens had stopped, so everyone could hear every word of the confrontation. "It's not what it looks like," Lance said weakly. "Really? Because it looks like you're a cheating piece of garbage who gets his kicks from destroying families." Nora finally found her voice. "You don't understand the situation." "I understand perfectly," Sarah cut her off. "You're a married woman who seduced my husband and convinced him to help you torment yours. You're both pathetic." The crowd was loving this. Nothing brought a small town together like a good public scandal. That's when I decided to make my entrance. I walked up to the group with Sophie beside me, and in my calmest voice said, "Hello, Nora, Lance. Enjoying your 15 minutes of fame?" Nora whirled around to face me. "Graham, you did this. You're trying to destroy my life." I didn't do anything except tell the truth. Everything people just saw and heard actually happened. You did have me arrested as a prank. You are having an affair. You did think it was funny to humiliate me. This is harassment. No, Nora. Harassment is having your husband arrested in his own driveway for your boyfriend's entertainment. This is just consequences. Lance finally seemed to realize that his reputation in this town was permanently destroyed. "Come on, Nora. Let's get out of here." But Nora wasn't ready to leave. 18 years of marriage had taught me to recognize the look in her eyes. She was about to completely lose control. "You think you're so smart, don't you?" she screamed at me. "You think you've won something here?" "I think I've shown everyone who you really are." "Who I really am. I'm someone who was married to a boring, pathetic loser for 18 years. I'm someone who finally found happiness with a real man who appreciates me." She gestured toward Lance, who was now trying to edge away from her. A real man? Sophie spoke up for the first time. Mom, he's married. He's been lying to his wife the same way you've been lying to Dad. How does that make him a real man? Nora turned on her own daughter. Don't you dare judge me, Sophie. You don't understand what it's like to be stuck in a hopeless marriage with someone who takes you for granted. I understand that you're a cheater and a liar, Sophie replied calmly. And I understand that Dad deserves better than someone who would have him arrested as a joke. The crowd murmured its approval. A 16-year-old girl standing up to her cheating mother was exactly the kind of drama this town would be talking about for years. Nora looked around at all the faces staring at her, neighbors, co-workers, people she'd known for years, and finally understood that her reputation was completely destroyed. This isn't over, she said to me. Yes, it is, I replied. The divorce papers are filed, the custody hearing is next month, and everyone in town now knows exactly who you are. It's very much over. Nora grabbed Lance's arm and tried to pull him toward the parking area, but Lance shook her off. I can't be seen with you right now, he said. This is a disaster. My wife, my reputation, everything is ruined. Lance, don't you dare abandon me now. But Lance was already walking away, leaving Nora standing alone in the middle of the crowd that had just witnessed her complete humiliation. Sarah watched her husband disappear into the parking lot, then turned to me. I think that went well, she said with a satisfied smile. The crowd began to disperse, people heading back to the vendor booths and food trucks, but I knew they'd be talking about what they'd just witnessed for months to come. Sophie put her arm through mine. I'm proud of you, Dad. You stood up for yourself without becoming a bad person. She was right. I hadn't done anything illegal or truly cruel. I'd simply made sure the truth came out in the most public way possible. As we walked back toward the main festival area, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Complete peace with my decisions. Nora had made her choices. Lance had made his choices. Now they'd have to live with the consequences, while I moved forward with my life and my daughter. For the first time in 18 years, I was exactly where I wanted to be.